Hey, it's John Keating here. That 70s card show. I'm an ordinary man, nothing special, nothing grand. A little bit of a disjointed episode here. Um, kind of like the Beatles, Abbey Road, side two. Have a few things that aren't kind of complete, wholly formed songs. And if you listen to side two of Abbey Road, brilliant, a lot of 1 minute ditties and stuff like that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what's been going on with me in the hobby the last few weeks, of course, coming off the heels of the wonderful National Card Show over there in Chicago, the second city, the city of big shoulders, I believe, the Windy City, and soon to be the former home of the Chicago Bears, they say. Uh, Future Arlington Bears. Anyway, um, just got back from a whirlwind trip this week. Monday had a flight to Chicago, canceled, flew to Chicago Tuesday morning, had a meeting, flew to Atlanta Tuesday night for a meeting Wednesday morning. Wednesday night, after that meeting, I was able to visit ballpark number 29 in my quest to touch them all, as they say. That's Truist Park there, home of the Braves, not the Brave, but the Braves. And just like any of these new ballparks, kind of cookie cutter, right? We had cookie cutter stadiums in the 70s, and say what you want, but there's not a lot of personality in that stadium. Good time had. They played the Yankees. There's lots of food, beer, and other methods to separate you from your hard earned cash. Oh, I learned a lesson. I typically try to get really good seats at these stadiums when I go, and I've come to realize that I spend most of my time just walking around checking out the park. So, Smart John, at 55 years old, finally figured out pay for a standing room ticket, and you can go anywhere you want. So that's what I did. Pretty proud of myself for figuring that out on ballpark number 29. So here we are, as I said, a couple weeks after national time, maybe 3 weeks at this point, from the closing bell. And conventional wisdom would tell you that after such a big event like that, you'd probably maybe slow down your purchasing after having picked up a lot of stuff, knocked off a lot of things on your list. But I'm not that bright. And I like to say I make every mistake, hopefully not twice, but I've made them all. And future mistakes always on the horizon as well. So a little bit of a drought there for me on Facebook Marketplace. Um, could count on picking up some cards anywhere from hundreds to thousands to tens of thousands to possibly even more, probably every couple months there, a little while back there in 21 and 22. Haven't had much luck lately. It's probably been about a year since I bought a really good collection. And I say collection, I don't mean old cardboard graded collections that were curated by people, but more like a hodgepodge of stuff that's crossed hands and switched hands many times. Kind of pick through, but maybe not pick through all the way. So anyway, I went on Facebook Marketplace as I do probably daily and checked out what the happenings were, and I stumbled not across. I stumbled across a collection advertised as about 40,000 cards for, I don't know, $750, something like that. So I reached out, wasn't too far away from me. I like to pick stuff up in person, look at it. Reached out, and it was I guess, a wife posting for her husband. Husband met me in the parking lot, and well, we negotiated down a little, so 550 for a lot of cards. So what was cool about this is there was a lot of cards with their original wax boxes and the wax pack wrappers. I guess you would say wax pack. I call them Mylar wrappers. and really a lot of neat stuff in there. And on the in the pictures, there was some stuff that caught my attention. There was a 78 Peyton, Walter Payton. There was a 78 Roger Staubach, 76 Ed Too Tall Jones. A lot of stuff from the junk wax era, but late 90s, early 2000s, stuff like that. So anyway, probably about 50% baseball, 25% football, 25% basketball. There were tens of hockey cards in there, and even maybe a dozen or so NASCAR cards. So I'm in the process of sorting through that. The potential unrealized gain so far, with maybe 10% of the collection onboarded, has far exceeded the $550 I spent. So that's what I look for in a collection. I look for 5 times, anything 5xing the potential value that gets absorbed into my collection. So we're well beyond that at this point, thankfully. And I have a lot to go. And then when it's all over, this will take a few months because I'm very busy, as you can tell. It'll take a few months for me to get through this on board, log it, and then figure out to sell my duplicates. My duplicates right now, I have probably over, I don't know, maybe 1,500 to 2,000 duplicates that I've already pulled out of some studs. Frank Thomas rookie card was in there, so there was some good stuff floating about. Again, lots and lots and lots of fun stuff in there. So, Michael Jordan's, Barry Sanders, Elway's, Emmett's, Aikman's, they're all in there. So it'll be fun to sort through that in the next few months. Again, you think I'd slow down after having such a wonderful time at the National, but and last year I was, as I've alluded to, I was a little bit of a funk post at National with the hobby, but man, sky's the limit now. So having fun with that. I'll talk about some more pickups here in a bit if you stick around with me. Now, Robbie Robertson died at the age of 80 on August 9th. Robbie Robertson, you say? And I say yes. Robbie Robertson was part of the band, kind of the first in line of what some would refer to as thinking man's bands, such as later on Steely Dan and maybe Rush and some other stuff. I know there was some prog rock stuff in there that was pretty deep, but Eric Clapton once flew to Woodstock, New York to try to join the band, and it was his dream to join the band for sure. And a great band, started out as the Hawks, Ronnie Hawkins backing band, and then were Bob Dylan's first electric band before they left and just did their thing as the band. Music from the Big Pink, of course, their penultimate piece of music. Garth Hudson is the last remaining survivor of the band. The band was interesting because they were mostly from Canada, yet they're kind of known for their Americana music. Levon Helm was the only American in that band. He was a drummer, he was a singer. Rick Danko was a bass player, he was a singer. Richard Manuel, he was a piano player, he was a singer. And Garth Hudson, of course, is the sole remaining member, and he was only allowed to join the band after he promised his parents that the other band members would pay him weekly to tutor them on their musical instruments. His parents were serious musicians, did not think rock and roll was the way to the future. So that's how he convinced his parents to let him join the band as the band's musical teacher. So Robbie Robertson, enjoy your journey to the other side. Wrote all that great music, and if you haven't seen The Last Waltz, maybe you should check that out. You could see Robbie and the band on their last go around with Robbie playing a bronze Fender Stratocaster for the occasion. So Chatterbox me, I've been loving to chat with other collectors. Tony, he's from South Philly. We chat on Twitter a lot. Drew out there in Nebraska, always shooting me stuff. Rob, Colorado, on Facebook Messenger. And of course, Zach, Mark, and Cooter always always accepting my either texts or Twitter DMs and humoring me with whatever I have to say. So appreciate that, fellas. Uh, Spent some time yesterday. Was supposed to be running errands, and one of my errands was to stop by my LCS and pick up a card that I had given to submission at the National. My LCS owner submitted that at the National. Talk about that in a second, but we talked about cards, had a good time. It's good to see his store buzzing along with young collectors, old collectors, and everybody in between. Went there a couple times this week, and it was fun to see a lot of people in there. If I can't talk to the LCS uninterrupted for a while, I think that's great because that means he's busy doing other stuff. So happy to see Mike at What's Hot Collectibles in Limerick doing well. Congrats to you. Uh, Less than a quarter of a mile away is my friend Rob Spar, who has Spar's Archives. Now he sells everything: stereos, records, everything, toys you can imagine, and a lot of cards. But most importantly, Rob is a collector. So Rob humors me. I go into his shop and we talk cards, and I always say, "All right, I got to go," and then I'm there for another half an hour because I brought up something else to talk about. So Rob, appreciate you letting me chew your ear in the smithereens, and it's fun to talk cards. Now, Rob, while I was talking to Rob, his twin brother, who also collects, was hanging out with Ray from Philly, so we were able to exchange some fairly graphic and adult humored text messages between uh, our two little powwows that we were having miles apart at the same time. So anyway, thanks to all for humoring me with my babblings about cards and all that stuff. So uh, the continued extraction from the wall of this wallflower is much appreciated. So take a chance. Taking a chance again. We take a chance whenever we buy cards, I suppose. Facebook Marketplace again is a good example of that. I try to be a little conservative there. I don't like to take too many risks anywhere in my collecting, truth be told, not just Facebook Marketplace, but occasionally we do take risks. I don't think when you enjoy a hobby or have a hobby per se, you should be taking a lot of risks because stress and angst is not an enjoyable way to go about one of your pastimes. And it's interesting. I have a lot of stress and angst with work, especially lately. So it shouldn't it shouldn't be rolled over into my little quiet time that I have alone. So I took a chance a few weeks back on a Facebook Marketplace ad. Ad is short for advertisement. David Letterman used to say advertisement, which I thought I had been saying it wrong my whole life, but it turns out I say it right, and David's a little off kilter with that. But anyway, Facebook Marketplace saw a listing, and it kind of caught my eye. There was a lot of modern cards by this same lister, and it was a female listing it. So I thought that was interesting. So I'll pop that on here. It was for a Yogi Berra 1947 tip top bread baseball card listed at $25, used condition, fair, all that fun stuff. So I was a little bit surprised, and I know that there were some reprints. The reprints themselves actually say reprint on the back. So this did not say that. But still, I went to inspect. I took the thing out of the thing holder and looked real to me. Not that I have any vast experience with tip top bread, but you can kind of, I guess, look for um, all the basic telltale signs that it may be counterfeited. So I paid $25 for the card, and it didn't have any tip top bread cards. And it turns out not a lot of people do have tip top bread cards, but bought it. Had a $125 sticker on the back. So what that tells me is my chances of it being real are diminishing by the second. I figured this collector, who also tried to sell me some wonderful Chase Utley and Ryan Howard cards in the 2000s, which I politely declined, tells me that maybe they had bought the card for 125 bucks at one point, tried to submit it, and came back counterfeit. So things were looking bleak for me. Again, my friend Mike at the LCS submitted it at the National with a bunch of other stuff. And it returned this week, and I went into his store Thursday. Okay. This is Sunday right now. So Thursday, I went into the store. I said, "Hey, did you get that the subs back from the National from SGC?" He says, "No." He said, "Did you get the grades?" He goes, "I got the grades," and he was afraid to tell me that it came back a 1. So I was ecstatic, and he's looking at me like I'm crazy. He's looking at me like I'm nuts, right? So anyway, and I told him why, because I thought the thing was counterfeit. So yeah. So anyway, there we are. We have the 1947 Tip Top Bread Larry Barra card. There's only 15 of these graded by SGC. And as my friend Mark Hoyle told me, these came in bread bags and were pretty beat up. So this is a 1. I see the little bread in the back there. This is Larry Barra's first card, folks. So 1947 Tip Top Bread. Lawrence Larry Yogi Berra. That's his first card. I'm not going to claim it's a rookie card, but for sure it's his first card. It's an early and possibly one of the first post-war food issues. I know that there was some ramping up back then of a lot of food issues, and obviously the cards in the late 40s started coming back online after the war. So anyway, 15 of those graded. Most of them graded. At least 6 of them are 1s, like I have right there. So there's a few outliers. I think there's a 7 and a 5.5 and a 5 and an authentic or whatever. But anyway, it's a nice Larry Barra, young Larry Barra, post-war, pre-1950s food issue card. So kudos to me. I took a chance and it worked out there. I'm not saying everybody should take a chance all the time, but I'm pretty stoked about that. Now, speaking of that stuff, so we have our Yogi Berra. Also, a few weeks back there, I bought this 1957 World Series program from the Yankees, home of the champions, Yankees, Braves. Of course, the Braves would win that World Series. And Yogi played in that World Series. Obviously, Yogi won a lot of rings. And anyway, home of champions, Yankee Stadium, probably a cigarette ad on the back. Yep, lucky strike. Bought that from my friend Rob Spar at Spar Archives that I spoke of earlier. So fun little add to the collection there. I didn't go into Rob's place and buy stuff like this that I completely didn't intend to walking in, but pretty thrilled to have a 57 Yankees Braves World Series program. Nice little fun piece of history. All right, next up we have a trip out west I made to Harrisburg, which is in the central part of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is a Commonwealth. There's only 3 of them: Massachusetts, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Yes, that means we get to get our car inspected once a year, as opposed to twice a year or maybe never in some states. We get to buy our liquor and our beer at state stores or beer distributors. I know that's changed a little bit lately, but imagine being under 21 and trying to buy liquor in Pennsylvania. It never was easy, trust me. We're going to move on to Harrisburg. And Harrisburg, I met up with Harlan. He was featured in Chasing Cardboard episodes, I think 13 and 14. Harlan is in the process. It's probably going to be a lifelong process of selling his father-in-law's massive collection of everything. I've bought some postcards from Harlan off of eBay. Got a nice Astrodome one over there, which I think is pretty cool. Has his father-in-law collected so many things, and Harlan sometimes is around the internet and known as John's Many Collections. John was his father-in-law. So anyway, Harlan's been selling and educating himself. You can watch those Chasing Cardboard episodes, of course. So Harlan and I, uh, um, we made a deal for a bunch of stuff about, I don't know, a couple months ago, and I paid for it because I don't like to have those loose ends out there. The only issue was eventually trying to get it in my hands, and neither one of us was in any hurry because just as long as I was paid for it, I felt like it was okay. So Harlan finally reached out and said, "Hey, let's meet up Harrisburg. There's a card show there." So I drove out. It's probably about halfway for both of us, which is great. Drove out there, met Harlan and his two sons, wonderful boys. And before taking a quick trip around the card show, we made the exchange, and more cards got sucked into the Jeep, and away we go. So, what did I get, you ask? So, in there was a 64 tops coin set, not in perfect condition, but it had the variations and all that fun stuff. There was some Salada coins in there, some old London coins in there. There was a 71 tops coin set, probably about 80% of that. And then there was a tops coin set from the 80s, 50 and 1953 tops license plate cards, which are fun and interesting and difficult to sort because there's some variations of those. There was some old bird cards from the early 1900s, which is pretty cool. So a lot of pre-war bird cards in there. There was the flags, the tops, I think 63 Midgie cards. So a bunch of those, a whole bunch of duplicates, all that fun stuff. Really some space cards from the 60s and stuff like that, but really fun kind of alternative collecting items. Oddball is what they'd call them, I guess, these days. So anyway, that was a fun, I guess we did that about a week ago. It was fun popping that into the old collection and all that stuff. So I have all that stuff sorted, logged, and thrown into the officially on board into my collection. So that was fun, Harlan. I appreciate that. I hope to do more business in the future with you. I know Mark and Cooter have also been dealing with Harlan, which is awesome. There's a lot of really, really cool oddball stuff in his collection. He also asked me if I wanted to. He's trying to. He's also trying to liquidate 350,000 records, and I told him, man, I could barely fit that many baseball cards in my basement. So good luck with that, Harlan. John, John is having the last laugh on you, but you're doing wonderful work there. So, old man, take a look at my life, right? Got a lot of oddball cards now. There's some interesting stuff that's been happening lately in the hobby, especially in the past week with certain players that were really the stars and darlings of the hobby not too long ago. So, vintage collectors, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but vintage collectors are often discounted or even mocked as out of touch and the old man on the porch. Well, you can't buy wisdom, you can't buy experience, you have to live it, right? So the events of the past week, just a continued reminder that we should um, probably collect and worship these players for their bodies of work and not their potential. Look at Silicon Valley with Apple, and then look at Theranos. Theranos was going to be the biggest thing ever once it hit its IPO. But again, let's look at the body of work for these players, for their cards. Um, these artificial markets that are created. I don't think anybody wins in the long term. Obviously, there's some short term winners, but there's a lot of long term losers there, and that's nothing that nobody already knows, or nothing that everybody doesn't already know, I guess is the way to say that. So don't discount wisdom. Uh, people like myself who were adults in the 90s, we're still adults in the 2020s. We saw it before, we're seeing it now. Um, Slow your roll, as they would say. I know I'm preaching to the choir. Uh, so a little lyric here by Jackson Brown, named my son Jackson, by the way. I'm going to be a happy idiot and struggle for the legal tender, where the ads take claim and lay their claim to the heart and the soul of the spender. And I believe in whatever may lie in those things that money can buy, where true love could have been a contender. So love your cards. Don't lust your cards. Don't lust after your cards. Don't covet other people's cards. Just enjoy and don't take too many risks on that stuff. That album, The Pretender, 1976, wonderful, wonderful album. I'm a bit of a pretender as I've expanded my non-sports vintage collection. I probably Junk Wax era, I have a massive collection, probably the most comprehensive collection of cards nobody wants. I've got 2000s, I've got football, baseball, basketball, hockey, uh, got them all. So you can be a pretender, but don't, don't jump at everything that moves in the bushes, as they say. So anyway, that's it. A little bit of my side two, Abbey Road. Lots of stuff out there. Hopefully, it was enough for people to enjoy while they're mowing their lawn, folding their laundry, or perhaps sorting their new, wonderfully loved, and possibly horribly conditioned sports cards or non sports cards. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week, weeks, or months. Be safe. Take care. And thanks for listening/watching.